The desperate council. The chamber of the Galactic Council was silent, unnaturally silent. 47 species, each representing the most powerful civilizations in the known galaxy, stared at the holo display that filled the air. Massive Vex-carry warships were moving toward the outer colonies. They looked like living machines, devouring everything in their path. Entire planets, moons, and stations had already vanished into their endless hunger. Ambassador Zeleth broke the silence first, his tone sharp and bitter. 10,000 years of peace, and this is how it ends. Eaten alive by metal monsters. No one laughed. Trazek of the Quillian Federation, a junior diplomat, sat quietly at the back. He watched as the brightest minds in the galaxy, the ones who built entire stars for power, now argued like frightened children. Ambassador Zura stood, her glowing skin flickering with stress. "Our fleets have engaged the Vex-carry at 7 fronts," she said. 83% of our capital ships are gone. The rest are regrouping. But the simulations give us only 12% chance of survival. 12%, someone shouted. Another delegate slammed his claws on the table. "We need solutions, not numbers," they argued. Some wanted to negotiate, as if the Vex-carry could be reasoned with. Others spoke of hiding in dark dimensions, ignoring that the Vex-carry could detect even those. One even suggested unleashing a plague, forgetting the enemy wasn't even alive in the biological sense. Then, through the chaos, a quiet voice spoke. "There is one option left." The chamber froze. All eyes turned toward Ambassador Ekna, the oldest of them all. Her frail body shimmered faintly under the blue lights. "Speak," said the Prime Counselor, his tone cautious. Ekna looked around slowly, her gaze heavy. "We could ask the humans." A wave of shock rolled through the room. For a moment, no one breathed. Then came the uproar. "The humans? Are you insane? They're monsters." Ambassador Krex bared his fangs. "They are quarantined for a reason. They nearly destroyed their own planet." "Yes," Ekna said quietly, "and yet, they survived." The words hung in the air like a blade. Trazek opened the human archives on his tablet. He had read about them, creatures of chaos, passion, and terrifying invention. They discovered fire, and made weapons. They discovered the atom, and made bombs. They went from the sky to their moon in only 66 years. They had been forbidden from joining the galactic community 2 centuries ago. Too violent, too unpredictable, too human. But now, when every other species had failed, the galaxy had only one option left. Prime Counselor Norik spoke softly, as if admitting a sin. "Perhaps what we need right now is dangerous." And with that, the Council voted. Trazek's name appeared on the mission roster, not because he was brave, but because he was expendable. As the diplomatic ship prepared to jump toward Sol System, Captain Lorax said bitterly, "We built those warning beacons to keep the galaxy safe from humans. Now, we pray they'll save it for us." The stars stretched and vanished. The mission had begun. Contact with the Forbidden World. The diplomatic vessel dropped out of FTL near the red planet, Mars. The stars twisted back into shape, and silence filled the bridge. Red dust and rocky terrain stretched endlessly below, broken only by metallic shapes, human structures. "Confirmed," said the navigator quietly. "Multiple colonies. Terraforming operations in progress. Human activity is thriving." Captain Lorax's eyes narrowed. So, they survived isolation. And they built all this alone. No one spoke. The entire crew felt a strange chill, as if they had entered the den of a predator that had been sleeping for too long. Trazek looked through the viewport. The human colonies were small but alive. Domes glowing with faint blue lights. Vehicles moving across the sand. Cargo ships rising and landing. Everything looked functional, efficient. But there was something unnerving about it, too. "Are they expecting us?" one of the aides asked. "They shouldn't be," Trazek replied. "We never sent a signal." "Then why," the captain said slowly, "are their defense satellites already watching us?" The holo-display flickered, showing dozens of orbital platforms turning toward them. Their targeting sensors locked. Quietly, precisely. "Energy signatures rising," the technician whispered. "They're charging weapons." The captain froze. "Raise shields, but don't respond. We come in peace. Make sure they understand that." Before the crew could react further, a signal cut through their systems. Not a weapon, a transmission. A voice. Calm, human, unmistakably fluent in galactic common. "Unidentified vessel, you are entering restricted Terran space. Identify yourself, state your purpose, and do not make sudden movements. You have 30 seconds to comply." Everyone on the bridge stared in disbelief. "How? How do they know our language?" someone whispered. Trazek's heart pounded. They shouldn't. The Council's communication codes were changed 100 years ago. "Maybe they never forgot," Captain Lorax muttered. He leaned forward and activated the comms. "This is Captain Lorax of the Galactic Council Diplomatic Mission. We come under peaceful intent, requesting audience with human leadership. The Council seeks your assistance." For several long seconds, there was no reply. Just static and the faint hum of the ship's engines. Then the voice returned, this time colder. "You want our assistance." A pause. "That's new. Usually your kind only comes to tell us what we're not allowed to do." The transmission cut off. Silence fell over the crew. The tension was suffocating. Then the computer beeped. New coordinates had been uploaded to their navigation system. "They're inviting us to land," Trazek said quietly. "Or," the captain replied grimly, "they're inviting us to die." The ship descended through the thin Martian atmosphere. As the red horizon grew closer, they saw a vast city under a transparent dome. New Olympus, the capital of Mars. But what shocked everyone most wasn't the city. It was the fleet above it. Hundreds of warships hovered silently in orbit. Massive, angular, and alien-looking, but unmistakably human-made. "Those ships," whispered one of the crew. "They're not supposed to have tech like this." Trazek nodded slowly. "No, they're not. Not unless they've been building, learning, and preparing." The ship touched down. The airlock hissed open. Outside, waiting for them, were humans in black armor, helmets reflecting the crimson sky. And in their center stood a tall man, his uniform simple but commanding. He looked up as the aliens approached. His voice was calm, steady. "Welcome to Mars," he said. "I am Admiral Cole of the Terran Defense Force. We received your message, and we have one question before we begin." He stepped closer, eyes sharp like steel. "Why now?" The question hung in the air, heavy, accusing, and impossible to answer. Because the galaxy had finally realized. They needed the monsters they once feared. The air inside the Martian command center felt heavy. Not because of gravity, but because of tension. Alien diplomats, used to towering palaces and crystal halls, now stood in a room built for war. The walls were lined with weapon schematics, holographic star maps, and real-time surveillance feeds of burning worlds across the galaxy. Trazek stood quietly beside Captain Lorax as Admiral Cole studied them from behind a reinforced glass desk. His eyes were cold, sharp, the kind of eyes that had seen too many wars. "So," Cole began, "the Galactic Council sends diplomats instead of soldiers. That's new." Prime Counselor Norik's holographic projection flickered above the table. "Admiral, humanity's unique capabilities are well known to us. Cole raised a hand. "Stop. Let me guess. You've all been losing badly. And now you remember the species you locked away because we were too dangerous." The silence that followed was painful. No one dared to answer. Trazek finally stepped forward, his voice shaking. Yes, the Vex carry are consuming everything. Worlds, fleets, entire star systems. You're the only ones they haven't reached yet. If they aren't stopped, they'll devour everything, even Earth. Cole leaned back in his chair, staring at the ceiling for a moment before he spoke again. 200 years ago, he said slowly, your council declared humanity unstable. You blocked our trade routes, restricted our travel, erased us from star maps. You thought you could forget us. He leaned forward, eyes locking onto Trazek's. But we didn't forget you. The alien delegation shifted nervously. Trazek felt his throat tighten. We were wrong, he said quietly. But if you don't help us now, there will be nothing left to rule for any of us. Cole studied him for a long moment. Then, to everyone's surprise, he chuckled, a dry, humorless sound. Help you, he said. You want us to fight your war. You want humanity to bleed again for a galaxy that feared us. Trazek hesitated. We have no choice. Cole stood up and walked toward the large window overlooking the Martian surface. Red dust storms twirled outside. When the Council exiled us, he said, you thought we'd fade away. But we adapted. We built cities here on the Moon, on Europa, on Titan. We learned to live where no one else could. We learned to fight alone. He turned back to them. And while you hid behind your treaties and peace councils, we kept building. We kept preparing. The lights dimmed slightly as holograms filled the room. Massive ships, dark and angular, dwarfing even the largest alien cruisers. Project Iron Dawn, Cole said proudly. A fleet built for the war you swore would never come. The aliens gasped. Even Captain Lorax could only whisper, by the stars. Trazek stared at the hologram. Ships with energy signatures unlike anything in the Council's archives. You built this, in secret. Cole smirked. No, you just weren't paying attention. For a long time, no one spoke. The realization was settling in. Humanity hadn't just survived exile. They had thrived in it. Finally, Cole turned to his officers. Get me a link to the Terran Council. It's time they decide whether we should save the galaxy that abandoned us. He looked back at Trazek one last time. If we do this, he said, we do it our way. No orders from your council. No restrictions. No oversight. Trazek swallowed hard. Understood. Cole's eyes narrowed. Good, because once we start, there's no going back. He tapped his wrist console. Outside the dome, the Martian sky lit up. Hundreds of human warships rising in perfect formation, engines burning like blue suns. For the first time in centuries, humanity was answering a call. Not for peace, but for war. The next morning, the Martian sky was no longer red. It was alive with light. Dozens of warships, sleek and angular, broke through the clouds in perfect formation. Their hulls shimmered with black armor that absorbed sunlight instead of reflecting it. The sight was both beautiful and terrifying, like watching thunder take shape. Trazek stood on the observation deck, speechless. He had seen fleets before. Entire armadas built by centuries of cooperation between dozens of species. But this was different. The Terran ships had no decoration, no symbols of peace or diplomacy. They were built for one purpose: survival through total destruction. Captain Lorax whispered, by the stars. They built all this in silence. Admiral Cole entered the deck, his boots echoing against the metal floor. He looked out at the rising fleet and spoke quietly, almost to himself. 200 years ago, we were the outcasts. Now, we are the storm. Trazek finally found his voice. You built this entire fleet without the council noticing. Cole nodded. While your council debated and voted for peace resolutions, we worked. Every failure we ever suffered became a lesson. Every scar became blueprints, We stopped dreaming about peace and started preparing for war. He turned to a young human officer. Status report. Sir, Iron Dawn fleet is at full readiness. All systems green. Orbital defense platforms sensed. The Nemesis carriers are fully armed. Cole smiled faintly. Good, then let's show our guests what they came for. The deck trembled as the fleet began to move. Massive carriers drifted into high orbit, escorted by destroyers and cruisers that cut through the thin Martian atmosphere like blades. From the surface, it looked as though an entire ocean of metal was rising into space. Trazak's eyes widened as he saw one of the carriers open its hangar bays. Hundreds of smaller strike craft roared out, forming tight attack formations. The precision was unnerving. No hesitation, no wasted motion. These pilots, he whispered, they move as one. Cole looked at him. Every Terran pilot trains under zero-mercy conditions. Failure isn't an option. Because out there, one mistake means extinction. Trazak could feel the weight of those words. He realized that while the other galactic species had grown comfortable, humans had evolved into something else entirely, something forged by fear, pressure, and loss. Then, a deep rumble shook the station. Cole's wrist console blinked with a priority signal. We're getting reports. The Vex carry main swarm has entered Centauri space. Trazak froze. That's where our last defensive fleet was regrouping. Cole nodded grimly. Not anymore. He turned toward the holomap. Thousands of red markers appeared, representing the Vex carry swarm. An endless wave consuming everything in its path. Cole took a deep breath. We launch within the hour. Trazak stared at him, unsure if this was courage or madness. You can't face that many ships alone. Cole smirked. We're not alone, Ambassador. You just haven't met the rest of us yet. Outside, hyperspace rifts began to open. Not one or two, but hundreds. More Terran ships poured through, larger than anything Trazak had ever seen. Dreadnoughts, carriers, mobile fortresses, the full might of a species once forgotten. The human admiral's voice boomed across the command network. To all Terran forces, this is not a rescue mission. This is a reckoning. For every world they've devoured, for every life they've taken, we will make the void remember who we are. Trazak watched as the first ships prepared to jump. The air around them shimmered as their engines charged. Cole turned to him one last time. You wanted humanity's help. You've got it. But don't ever forget, when you call humans to war, they don't fight to survive. They fight to win. The fleet vanished into hyperspace, leaving behind only echoes and a sky filled with fire. The war for the galaxy had begun, and humanity had just stepped back onto the stage they were once banished from. The arrival at Centauri Hub. When the Terran fleet dropped out of hyperspace, the stars themselves seemed to hold their breath. The Centauri Hub, once the largest trading nexus in the galaxy, was now a graveyard. Dozens of alien capital ships drifted silently, their hulls torn apart, leaking frozen air and shattered hopes. The Vex carry swarm was already there. Endless metallic forms moving like a tide, eating through everything in their path. From the bridge of the TSS Nemesis, Admiral Cole stood still, staring at the destruction. His voice, calm but deadly, echoed across the fleet network. All ships, this is command. Lock targets and form defense grid Delta. Today, humanity returns fire. The order spread through the fleet like lightning. Terran ships moved in perfect synchronization, their formation shifting into a massive spearhead. Every vessel, from the smallest fighter to the largest dreadnought, locked onto the same enemy coordinate. Trazak, standing at the observation rail, felt his chest tighten. He had seen many battles before, but nothing like this. The human ships didn't hesitate. They didn't retreat. They attacked with precision that bordered on terrifying. Fire control, release salvo, Cole commanded. space erupted. Thousands of kinetic rounds, plasma torpedoes, and railgun slugs screamed into the void, lighting up the darkness like a storm of miniature suns. Entire Vex-carry formations disintegrated under the impact. Their armor, once thought indestructible, shattered like glass against the Terran barrage. Trazek watched in stunned silence. Their weapons, they tear through the swarm like paper. Captain Lorax nodded, her eyes wide. Those aren't ordinary weapons. They've combined energy and kinetic impact, something even the Council never perfected. But humanity's firepower wasn't the only thing terrifying. It was their coordination, the way their ships moved as one living organism, reacting instantly, adapting to enemy formations faster than any AI the Council had ever built. Then came the human fighters, sleek, deadly machines cutting through enemy ranks in tight formations. Their pilots didn't hesitate. They dove straight into the swarm, weaving between energy beams, firing with deadly accuracy. Cole watched the battle unfold, his tone cold and calculating. Target clusters 9 through 12. Overcharged plasma rails. No survivors. The Nemesis fired again. A blinding blue beam that split space itself. The Vex-carry ships caught in its path simply ceased to exist. Reading massive losses on the enemy side, an officer reported. Swarm density reduced by 38%. Trazek turned toward Cole. That's impossible. Not even 10 of our fleets could cause that much damage. Cole didn't answer. He simply stared at the tactical map, where red enemy markers were turning black one by one. But even as victory began to look possible, a new signal appeared. Massive, dark, and pulsing with energy. The bridge lights dimmed as the scanners adjusted. Captain Lorax frowned. "Admiral, I'm detecting a gravitational anomaly. Something big." Then, out of the darkness, the Vex-carry prime vessel emerged. It was enormous, larger than any ship ever recorded, a living machine that devoured light itself. Around it, smaller ships swarmed like protective cells. Trazek's voice trembled. That's their command ship." Cole narrowed his eyes. "Good. Let's see what kind of god they think they are." He activated fleet-wide comms. "All Terran units, form Omega Spear formation. Redirect power from shields to main batteries. We're ending this." The human fleet realigned instantly. Massive dreadnoughts moved into position, their reactors glowing bright enough to be seen from the planet below. The Vex-carry prime charged a massive energy pulse, ready to unleash destruction on a galactic scale. But humanity didn't wait. Fire. The Terran spearhead erupted. Every ship released its payload at once. Railgun rounds, plasma lances, antimatter warheads, and something else. A weapon so secret even Trazek couldn't identify it. The void exploded in white light. For a moment, everything went silent. Even the stars seemed to disappear. Then the shockwave hit, sending debris and radiation across the battlefield. When the light faded, the Vex-carry prime was gone. Vaporized, its remains scattered like dust. Cole exhaled slowly. "Status. Hennany Central Command destroyed," the officer replied. "Remaining swarm units are disoriented. They're retreating." A wave of disbelief washed through the alien delegates. For the first time in recorded history, the Vex-carry swarm was retreating. Trazek turned toward Cole. You actually did it." Cole's voice was quiet, but it carried weight. "No, we just reminded the galaxy what humanity is capable of." As the surviving ships of the Council began to reappear, broadcasting signals of gratitude and shock, Cole stared at the fading stars. "Send word to the Galactic Council," he said. "The war isn't over. This was just a warning." The Terran fleet held position among the wreckage, engines glowing faintly, silent, powerful, and waiting. For the first time in 1,000 years, the galaxy feared again. And this time, it feared humans. The galaxy had not been this silent in 10,000 years. Every communication channel, from the High Council frequencies to the outer mining colonies, was flooded with a single piece of footage: the destruction of the Vex Carry Prime vessel by humans. Even now, hours after the battle, the recording played again and again across every world. The final moment, the blinding white explosion that erased the Vex Carry command ship, became a symbol. To some, it was hope. To others, it was the beginning of something far more terrifying. Inside the Galactic Council chamber, chaos reigned. Ambassadors shouted over each other, their translator devices struggling to keep up. Holographic projections flickered, data streams, casualty counts, energy readings, all confirming the same unbelievable truth. The humans destroyed it. One delegate shouted, "With weapons we can't even identify," screamed another. Prime Counselor Norix sat frozen at the center of the storm. Her hands trembled as she stared at the data feed, power readings that exceeded anything the Council's scientists had ever recorded. That blast, it hadn't just destroyed the Vex Carry Prime. It had rewritten space itself. Ambassador Krex slammed his clawed hands against the table. "You see, this is why we quarantined them. We were right. They're monsters." Ambassador Etna's voice, calm but sharp, cut through the noise. "Monsters? They just saved your world, Krex. All of our worlds." Krex hissed. "Saved us? Or replaced one threat with another?" The chamber went silent, because deep down, everyone knew what he meant. The humans had done the impossible. They had won a war the entire galaxy had already lost. And they had done it in a single battle. Across the stars, reactions varied. On the industrial world of Varnus, crowds gathered around massive holoscreens, cheering the humans' victory. In the trade hubs of the Bell-Torin Union, merchants argued whether to cut new deals with Earth before others did. And in the quiet research stations near the galactic rim, scientists whispered in fear. If humans could destroy the Vex Carry so easily, what could they do next? Meanwhile, aboard the TSS Nemesis, Admiral Cole stood before a galaxy map. Human fleets were now being hailed across dozens of systems. Transmissions poured in, some offering alliances, others begging for protection. Captain Lorax stepped forward. "Sir, we're receiving hundreds of messages. Colonies, syndicates, even former enemies. They all want contact with Earth." Cole didn't look up. His eyes were fixed on the glowing holographic sphere that represented the Galactic Council. "They'll come to us now, not because they trust us, but because they're afraid of us." Trazek, the Quillian diplomat, spoke softly beside him. "They will see you as saviors, heroes." Cole turned, his expression unreadable. "Saviors today, tyrants tomorrow. That's how it always begins." For the first time, Trazek saw something human in the Admiral's eyes: exhaustion, pain, and an understanding of just how much power they now held. Back at the Council, the argument had shifted from disbelief to panic. Ambassador Zill spoke urgently. "We must send envoys. We must thank them. Establish peace." "Peace," Krex interrupted, his voice dripping with fear. "With them? You think they'll stop now? You think a species that fights extinction with such fury will ever stand still?" Norix banged her staff for silence. "Enough. The humans have changed everything. The balance of power, the structure of the Council, even the laws of war." Etna leaned forward, her old eyes sharp. "Perhaps that's what we needed. A reminder of what we've forgotten." "And what's that?" Norix asked. Etna smiled faintly. "That peace was never free. It was just borrowed." Her words echoed through the chamber long after she stopped speaking. Later, as the Council finally settled into uneasy silence, a single transmission arrived. Encrypted, direct from Earth. The hologram flickered to life. Admiral Cole appeared, his uniform dark and scorched from battle. Behind him, the Terran flag fluttered faintly. To the Galactic Council, he began, his tone steady. The Vexcari threat has been neutralized. Humanity will begin cleanup operations within your sectors. He paused, eyes scanning the silent faces of dozens of alien representatives. We did what had to be done. But understand this, humanity didn't fight for your approval. We fought for survival. And if you ever unleash another threat like the Vexcari again, we will not wait to be invited. The hologram cut out. Silence fell over the chamber once more. Norix exhaled slowly. We called the humans because we had no other choice, she whispered. Now the galaxy belongs to them. And far away, on the bridge of the Nemesis, Cole watched the same message replay on his console. He said nothing. But deep inside, he knew the truth. The war was over. The real question was, what happens when the most dangerous species in the universe has nothing left to fear? The war was over. But peace was a lie the galaxy told itself to sleep at night. In the weeks that followed humanity's victory, the stars fell silent. The once invincible Vexcari were gone. Their world ships turned to dust, their endless swarm finally broken. Across thousands of systems, citizens cheered the humans' name. The saviors of the galaxy, the impossible warriors, the ones who stood when all others had fallen. And yet, behind those cheers was something darker. Fear. Fear of what the humans would do next. Inside the Galactic Council chamber, the atmosphere had changed completely. Gone was the arrogance, the laughter, the casual superiority the old species once held. Now every ambassador spoke softly, cautiously, as though even words could offend the new power that stood above them all. Prime Counselor Norix sat at the center table, reading the latest reports. The humans had not returned home after the war. They had remained, quietly building new stations, repairing old fleets, and placing Terran defense satellites across key systems. Ambassador Krex slammed his clawed hand against the table. They say it's for protection. I say it's occupation. Ambassador Etna responded calmly, her voice aged but firm. They lost millions fighting a war we could not win. Let them have some security. Security? Krex hissed. Or control? No one answered, because deep down, everyone wondered the same thing. Far away, on Mars Command, Admiral Cole stood before a wide viewport. The red planet below was no longer just a colony. It was now the center of a growing alliance. Dozens of alien ships orbited the planet, their hulls marked with the Terran flag beside their own. Captain Lorax approached quietly. Sir, new reports from the Council. They're debating whether to limit our fleet presence. Cole didn't turn around. They're afraid. They should be. Lorax frowned. We saved them. Yes, Cole said softly. And they'll never forgive us for it. He watched as cargo ships moved across the sky, carrying supplies to rebuild shattered worlds. Humans had become what they never intended to be, the enforcers of peace. And nothing scared the galaxy more than a peace enforced by humans. In the shadows of the Council, secret conversations began. Some whispered of forming a new alliance, not to fight the humans now, but to prepare for the day when humanity decided to expand again. Others spoke of learning from them, adapting human technology, human strategy, even human psychology. Ambassador Trazak sat alone in his quarters, recording a private message to the archives. The humans are not what we believed, he said softly. They are not conquerors, but they are not saviors either. They are inevitable. When faced with extinction, they do not surrender. They evolve. He paused, glancing toward the stars outside his window. Perhaps one day that evolution will save us again, or destroy us all. Meanwhile, on Earth, humanity celebrated. Cities that had once been divided by borders now stood united under a single banner. For the first time in recorded history, there were no wars among humans. No nations, Only one people, Terrans. A massive memorial stood in what was once New York City. Names of the fallen stretched for miles, carved into black stone. Children placed flowers at the base, while soldiers in silver armor stood guard, silent, proud, and watchful. A small group of leaders gathered there, scientists, admirals, and diplomats. Among them stood Admiral Cole. "We've done it," said one of the ministers beside him. "The galaxy is free." Cole's expression darkened. "Free, yes, but freedom never lasts. Someone always wants more. And if that someone comes for us?" Cole looked up at the stars, his reflection mirrored in the polished stone of the memorial. "Then they'll learn the same lesson the Vexcari did. Humanity doesn't ask for mercy." The others fell silent. The stars above flickered faintly, countless worlds watching, wondering, fearing. But far beyond known space, in the cold void where the Vexcari once reigned, something stirred. A faint signal pulsed from the ruins of a shattered world ship. Mechanical, distorted, ancient. It repeated the same message again and again. "They are not the only ones who adapt." The transmission vanished into the dark. And somewhere, deep in the unknown, new eyes opened.